apricot chicken and butter chicken. We have it all here on Drop Your Buffs, a podcast discussing Australian Survivor. Hi, I'm Stuart, and on this episode we'll be discussing the Australian Survivor episode that aired on Sunday the 4th of September. So if you haven't seen this episode yet and don't want to be spoiled, please leave the Tribal Council area immediately. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already, and if you can, please leave us a review on iTunes. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just go to dropyourbuffs.com for more details. And with me tonight, I have my co-host, Craig. How's it going, Craig?
Hello, Stu. How are you? Happy Father's Day to you, Stu.
Thanks very much.
Happy Father's Day to all our listeners that are dads out there.
Now, have you recovered after the hijinks of last week's episode?
Oh, I think so. It's a tough old game, though, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, it was hard going tonight as well. You could just see it. There was some real dilemmas being played out tonight, I think.
Yeah, well, that's the great thing is that it really did turn things upside down last episode. And even though I think you were saying last episode, you thought, well, is it really fair to spring that on people after they had voted already? Should they have told them about this swapping thing before they voted? But really, the thing with Survivor is that isn't part of the game. There's no real rules that you can rely on in Survivor. It's a constantly.
Well, apparently there are
thing,
rules. Apparently there's very detailed rules. But what you're saying is it's not really fair. Is that what you're saying? It's not supposed to be fair.
No, yeah, that's right. That's right. I mean, fairness is not a part, particularly, of the game of Survivor.
No,
it's not meant to be fair.
Yeah, look, you're right. At the end of the day, they're making a TV show. It's got to be entertaining. It's got to have twists and turns and excitement to keep people watching. I get that.
Well, of course, with this episode, they launched straight into the aftermath of the tribe swap. And one of the things that Connor said off the bat, pretty much off the bat, he said Vavau appeared to be very unified, which obviously makes it pretty hard for himself and Sam coming in.
Which is what we were talking about last time when we looked at the new makeup of the tribes and what that might mean for the new members of those tribes. And that's basically what we said about Vavau, wasn't it? That it was a very strong six, we thought, against Sam and Connor coming in.
That's right. But the great thing was they had that extra twist where they could take someone with them, so they weren't just easy pickings by themselves to be to be voted off at the next tribal council.
Maybe it is fair after all. Maybe that's why they did it.
Well, I think it is fair because I think that they have had a previous Survivor where they've had a kind of a tribe swap before, but it was just a one for one sort of a swap.
Yeah.
Whereas this means when you've got two coming across or two swapping each side, it's they suddenly have their own little voting block of two.
That's
so
right.
It's a different proposition.
That's exactly right. But just on that, I mean, I thought particularly Connor just in that opening to the episode just looked stunned. Did you think so? He looked completely stunned. He looked like a rabbit in headlights.
Oh, absolutely.
What the hell just happened?
That's right. Well, they're all such big students of the game as well. They would not have seen that coming.
No, they wouldn't. They've never seen anything quite like that before, and suddenly they were in the middle of this. Well, everyone was blindsided, as we said the other day. But yeah, poor old Connor, he just looked like, I just don't know how I got here. And I think Sam eventually got there the next day. I've woken up, I'm in a new bed, I'm in a new tribe, and what just happened? How did I end up here?
But the thing I was thinking when I was watching this episode tonight was that the tribe swap thing, it really forced Nick and Connor to really declare their closest allies, because there are a lot of players on the game that say they have alliances with half a dozen different people, and they don't really have a true alliance with these people. They've just sort of kept open these channels to all these different people.
Yeah.
But this has crystallized that decision as to who is their ally that they really want to bring with them.
Well, it was
and
interesting.
They can't take that back now.
When it was all going down in that previous episode, I always, when those things are sprung on people, I like to try and sort of think, what would I do if I was in that position? And my gut reaction when Connor was given the choice of who he was going to take with him, my gut reaction was take Sam. So I don't know why that is, but that was just like, what would I do? What would I do very quickly? I'd probably go Sam. So, and that's exactly what Connor did. Anyway.
Is it just me?
Yeah, it's just you.
Well, Nick, Do you think it's just becoming more and more annoying as it's going on?
Oh,
Well, he says, "I'm still here," and it's like,
Well,
I wish you weren't.
he's playing a different strategy, isn't he? We talked about this last time. I think he's playing with fire. When he left for Vow last time, he was angry. He was saying stuff, but he's continued it, and he's playing a more bitter game, I think.
Well, he told us that the rain has washed away his sins.
He did say that.
Oh, sorry, but I'm just not
You're
buying
not
that.
seeing that?
I'm not buying that. But
He's
Craig,
certainly entertaining, if nothing else.
oh, he is. He's a very intense character, isn't he?
He is. Sure is.
Craig seemed pretty happy because the way he sort of saw this whole tribe swap thing was that they basically dropped 2 pieces of dead weight.
Yeah.
So that's a good point for him.
They clearly had it in for Nick, and there wasn't a lot of love there for Tegan either, was there?
No, there wasn't, which we hadn't really seen much about
that,
her. So no,
I guess it's hard at this point of the show when there's this many people they have to cover. You can't get every conversation that's happening, but I think they made it pretty clear that those 2 were on the outs, and they were pretty glad to see the back of them.
That's right. Actually, one thing that I was happy to see in tonight's episode, we had yoga on the beach. Christy and Phoebe, and the reason why is it's not real Survivor until we see yoga on the beach. It's got to be yoga
on the beach
because I think it's
really his coach.
Sorry, coach.
All we need is coach in
yes,
there,
that's right.
take them through a session on the beach, and everything's right with the world.
It's really become a Survivor staple, though, isn't it? It's hard to think of a Survivor where they haven't done yoga on the beach for a while.
So there they were, on the beach, Christy and Phoebe.
Now, when I opened the show and I talked about apricot chicken and butter chicken, I think you looked a bit puzzled, didn't you?
I've got no idea where apricot chicken and butter chicken come into this, so please explain.
Well, it was a very quick reference, but they were near the start of the episode. They were looking and talking to the chickens that they'd won the previous episode, and I think Kate was saying that they call one of the chickens Apricot.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, it was just a very quick aside sort of thing.
Oh.
So I was thinking, okay, so what's the other one called? Butter?
No, I missed that whole thing.
No, it was very quick. And then
the chickens though are becoming quite prominent in this show, aren't they? They've all got names, and we've got Chester, and I've forgotten what tribe Chester's on. Is he on Aganoa? No, he's on Sanapu, isn't he? Have they got all the chickens? Now. Do they end up with all the chickens after that big reward win last episode?
Yeah, look, I'm not sure. They haven't really made that super clear. Like I'm sure it's clear from the previous episode.
Right, so we know we have at least 2 chickens. One is we know there's 3 chickens, but we know one's called Chester and one's called Apricot. Okay.
Yes, that's right. And then that takes us to the one and only challenge in this episode, which was the immunity challenge.
Yes. Yeah, good challenge.
Yeah, well, it's just to briefly describe what that was. They had to collect some wooden pieces that they were going to make a long pole with to reach through a gate sort of a thing to get a key. Then they can get the key, unlock the gate, then go and make a fire to try and burn a piece of string to release a flag. So it's something that we've seen before on previous Survivors, and but I had no problem with that. It's a great. It's
always good. Those long stick challenges are always interesting, and there's different ways of doing it. Do you try and get it off the peg and have it fall down the stick, or do you drop it and drag it? Combined it with a bit of a physical bit where they had to run out to a platform and get the bits and pieces. Yeah, it was a good challenge.
Yeah, it was. And now Nick, he seemed to be a bit of a fire-making champion, didn't he?
He does, yeah. They were finished well in advance of the other 2 tribes.
Yeah, exactly. So Sanapu, which is Nick's new tribe now, won the challenge convincingly. So I guess they must be somewhat happy to have Nick on their team now.
I think his stocks may have gone up, yes.
And then, of course, we had the whole thing with the Vow seemed to be assured of getting second. And in fact, they were vying for first place as well.
They were right in it.
When Barry was first making fire, he looked like he knew what he was doing as well. And then Aganoa just comes out of nowhere and comes second in the challenge.
I know. It didn't, and looked very unlikely there for a while, didn't it? No, as they were trying to get that key off that peg, it did not look promising at all. And then from nowhere.
Well, Lee was pretty instrumental in that win, wasn't he? I'm just trying to think what his involvement was, but I think he did something to get them over the line, as he always seems to do.
Oh, I think he was certainly doing the motivational piece, and keep at it, and you guys are great, and doing all that sort of stuff. I can't remember what he did in that challenge, but He doesn't give up, does he?
No, that's right.
He's always encouraging them. There's always hope, and he's always in there.
And that then brings us to Vavau having to face Tribal Council. So we've got the usual scramble before Tribal Council, and this was probably, of all the episodes so far, it was really up in the air as to who the possible contenders were. I think they're up to about 4 different people that could possibly have gone.
A few interesting things happened during the discussions back at camp between the challenge and Tribal Council. So it all looked pretty obvious there at one stage that probably Connor was going home, but then Kate was the one, I think, who first threw out Barry's name. Got that conversation started. Of course, Connor did his heart on his sleeve speech. I actually think that had an impact. So it looked to me after that speech that some of the original Vavau members were there and feeling a bit sad and a bit, I'm not so sure I'm so comfortable about the decision now. He really wants to be here, and maybe there's others here who don't. And I think that actually, good on him. I mean, he had to try something, and I think it had an impact.
Well, it seemed from the outset that they were probably more comfortable with voting out either Sam or Connor because they're the new ones, and I guess they thought, well, why should we vote out one of our own first? You know, it's a pretty easy vote to get rid of one of those. So
that's right. So
both of them were off the back foot to start with, but I guess Sam is such a physical contender. He felt pretty safe.
That's right. But then what I thought was super fascinating, and we alluded to this last time, was what Andrew was saying when he did exactly as we were predicting last time, when he started talking about getting rid of Craig and to do that in alignment with Connor and Sam. So I think that's probably more a story for another day, but that's the first we've heard about that, and that's a very fascinating development, I think, in terms of how this might go.
It is. I liked what he said. He was talking about, he made the shark analogy. He was saying that he's like a shark and he must keep attacking his prey. So
And Craig's the next one. Yeah, that was super fascinating.
I can only guess it's because Andrew thinks of Craig as being some kind of a threat down the track, because they probably need Craig at the moment, though, because he's a great physical asset for the tribe.
I wouldn't be surprised if Andrew's looking at the alliance, that's a very strong alliance, it looks like too, that Craig has with Jenna Louise, and sees that as there's a voting block of 2 straight away. That's starting to look dangerous.
But he was basically in this alliance of 4, though. So you think that for the moment he should feel pretty safe because he's with Craig, Jenna Louise, Sue, and himself. So that's a fairly strong 4, I would have thought. So I wondered why he would have been trying to mix that up, but maybe he's really thinking long term.
I think I agree with what you're saying. I absolutely agree with what you're saying, but I think he's thinking much deeper into the game than where we're at the moment.
Yeah,
and interesting. It's just a little seed that's been planted.
That's right.
I think we're going to hear about that again.
No, it's great that he's really coming out as another player, and seeing as we didn't hear it all from Kylie this episode.
No, didn't hear. I don't think we heard her speak this time.
Also, so having Andrew come out was really good. Should we go just jump straight to the tribal now?
Yeah, let's do that.
I thought it was funny when JLP was talking to Kate, and he's talking about the majority and the minority, and he's asking Kate, who's in the minority? And she says, I guess it'll come out in the votes tonight.
Well, do you think Kate might be in the minority here? And this is where also I think what Andrew's been saying about ganging up on Craig is very interesting, because in that discussion it became clear that at the last tribal council Kate didn't know about the Nick plan.
That's right.
So she's clearly on the out.
That's right.
She's clearly a bit aggrieved by that. All of a sudden, if you combine her with Andrew, who might be flip-flopping a little bit on the alliance, and Connor and Sam, who are desperately looking for something to hang on to, you've got a majority. That's 4. So I think it's all about to be blown open. I really do at Vavau.
I think Andrew's problem, though, is Sue, because he seems to have his tightest alliances with Sue.
That's right.
And she wasn't that keen on the whole flip-flopping. So
she was not keen about that at all.
No, so I think that's going to be Andrew's biggest problem, is trying to convince her to come with him, because I don't think he'll do anything unless she comes with him.
But we do have a Kate who is on the bottom and feeling perhaps a little bit disaffected. Watch Kate. It's going to be interesting to see what she does next.
Well, then we had Barry was one of the people, of course, that was brought up as a possible person to go out, and we had spoken earlier about his sort of crazy attitude to voting and how it's
a different strategy. Let's call it that.
Yeah, and one that has yet to be proven in Survivor as being effective.
And won't be now.
No. And I just found him so confusing because he said...
Oh, yeah, I don't understand this comment. I think I know what you're about to say.
He said, in this game, you need to vote with your head and not your heart.
Yeah, well,
which basically contradicted what he'd said earlier.
Yeah, it's not what he's doing.
No, so in the end, I wasn't sure what he was doing, but he was obviously such a wild card. I was thinking, and I was live tweeting, and I was saying the rest of Vow, if they don't get rid of Barry now, they're crazy because he's obviously he's
completely unpredictable.
Exactly.
As we said last time, he's too big of a risk. You can't rely on him to join an alliance. You don't know how he's going to vote. There's just no strategic value, in my view, about him being there, other than he seems to be a nice guy and they like him and they like having him around. And someone, I think it was Jenna Louise, said he's the heart and soul of the tribe, has been since day one. But at the end of the day, he's a wild card. You don't know what he's going to do.
Exactly. Exactly. And so I guess in the end, it wasn't that surprising. And I was probably a bit glad to see Barry get voted off tonight, only because just for those reasons that we said. And it was a unanimous decision, wasn't it?
It was,
so
other than the vote that Barry sprayed around for Sue, presumably taken out of the hat. Yeah, it was 7 votes to 1 to Barry. A little bit of my one gripe for the evening, the editing let them down a little bit. It was quite clear from Andrew's vote that he was writing not a round letter as his first letter on his vote. He drew a straight line.
Missed that a little bit.
So it wasn't a C. It was definitely something with a straight line, which was probably B. So they could have just cut away about half a second earlier and we would never have known. So they gave it away just a little bit. That's what was, at least that was how he was going to vote.
Right.
Didn't know if everyone was going to vote that way, but it was quite obvious he was voting for someone with probably with a B.
That's a good pickup, Craig. And Barry, he basically said in his parting words that he still sort of thought of himself as Vavau and he didn't have any hard feelings and so on, and so but.
I think that's the sort of guy he is. I mean, I think the reason he was probably voting in the way he was is because it was just he liked them all, and it just felt too hard to vote someone out who he liked. I think he's that kind of guy.
I saw a few tweets that were a bit angry with Barry, only because again they were sort of having this argument that you had so many thousands of people that applied to be in Survivor, frustrated with Barry because he wasn't playing the game according to these people, and I can see what they mean. He's not. Because the game of Survivor is about forming alliances and so on, and he just refused to even do that. So I can see where people would be upset about that.
Sure, but I mean, he had a clear strategy. It was not like he was making it up as he went along. He had a clear way he wanted to play it. Now, ultimately, it didn't work. It wasn't likely to work, but I think that's as valid a way of playing as anybody else.
Yeah. Fair enough.
That's my view. But I don't think it's a particularly clever one, but and it proved not to be, but. Yeah, he's as entitled to play it that way as anyone else is.
Well, shall we start the sad music, Craig?
Sad music.
And I would just like to say a quote from Jenna Louise. I thought she really summed it up about Baz. She said, "His form of voting isn't great," and I think that's the best you can say.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Sums it up pretty well.
So Barry, the tribe has spoken. Best moments, Craig.
Best moments had to have been Aganoa coming through from absolutely nowhere to win immunity in that challenge. That was an amazing thing.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I think that it seems like the worm is turning for them a little bit, isn't it? Because they're just following their mojo. And even at the start of the episode, Lee, I think, was saying even though they were cold, miserable, and it rained all night, he woke up at least feeling euphoric because they felt like that they're sort of turned a corner.
Turned a little bit of a corner, having some, as you said, I think you said, having some minor wins, some little wins here and there, and they haven't been to Tribal Council for 2 episodes now. That gives chances for alliances to consolidate and form and become stronger, and they're doing better than they were.
Yeah, and I think that my best moment was Jenna Louise's comment about Baz's form of voting isn't great. That certainly brought a chuckle from me. Now, there are a few tweets there that I picked up on during the episode. Now, one, I don't really want to plug a sponsor particularly, but Hungry Jack's is a sponsor of Survivor, and they tweeted during the challenge when they're trying to light the fire. They said they're struggling to make fire, but the flame's always burning at Hungry Jack's.
Good on them. Good on them. No. Well done, Hungry Jacks.
I don't know if that happens during American Survivor because I'm not really watching live tweets during then because it's a different time zone and so on. So I'm not sure if they do that.
They certainly do their fair share of product placement in that in the American version of the show. We've had mobile phones and Mountain Dew drinks and cars and all sorts of stuff over the years.
Yeah, but they're doing less of that now, isn't there? I don't think that there's not very much of that anymore at all anymore. We didn't see much of Kat tonight.
No, we didn't see much of Kat at all.
But someone did tweet about it though. And Mr. Hunter Smith said they are yet to have a challenge that plays the Cat's strength. When is the challenge pretend you had an acai bowl for brekkie challenge coming up?
I'm not sure I even understand that tweet, but look, I think it's actually a valid point. I mean, all of the challenges to date have been very physical. A few of them have had the puzzle element, which Kat's been involved in both of those and didn't go particularly well. But I'm not sure what her particular strengths are, but I don't think she's one of the more physical people out there. But no, I think that's probably right.
Yeah, because she hasn't proven herself physically or with the puzzles either. So I'm not really sure if there is a challenge that she can really excel at. But that doesn't necessarily, be a hindrance for her game because if you see someone like Sari from earlier seasons of Survivor, who hated camping and so on.
Absolutely.
She was fantastic.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll see what happens there.
Just one last tweet. There were most of the tweets towards the end particularly were about Barry and his game and the way he played and so on. And I think one person sums it up pretty well. This is the Twitter handle is @DJ Kizza. He said, Barry is a moron. Saying he didn't want to play alliances in Survivor AU is saying you don't want to buy properties in Monopoly.
Yeah. Good analogy.
So, yeah.
Look, as I said before, it's a perfectly valid strategy. I don't think it's particularly likely to be a successful one, but you never know. With the right bunch of people, it might actually work.
No, that's right. And I think that's pretty much all for the episode. But did you see what's coming up next week or next episode?
Oh, it looked a bit messy, didn't it?
Yeah, we probably shouldn't watch the show while we're having dinner. I think next episode.
Make sure you've eaten before you see next week. That looks a bit nasty. What's going on there?
Well, I just hope it doesn't end up in a medevac though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
we don't want that.
We don't want that. No. But we certainly have seen medevacs for similar sort of things before. So it can happen.
The most recent US series, actually, I think someone had a boil on their knee.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
on their knee, I think, wasn't it? And they were advised that they really needed to go.
It was the ice cream man.
The ice cream man. Yeah,
the ice cream man. That's right.
I can't remember his name, but yeah,
with the funny pants.
With the funny pants.
Funny pants.
That's him.
Yeah, but in this episode it was Kate, wasn't it, who had the boil? So
it looks like it.
Yeah, it didn't look good. Any other Survivor news you came across, Craig?
Not so much news, and I'm not even sure exactly. Well, I saw this on Twitter, but I think it might actually be a tweet link to the Survivor Australia website.
Right.
There's a really fascinating video on there of the big shed they've set up where they build the challenges. So they've got this team of craftsmen there, and they've got all the equipment under the sun, and they're carving poles and bits of wood, and they're painting them, and absolutely, it's a huge operation. I don't know how many people they've got there. They employ lots of local people in Samoa. The shed was huge, and they were just working madly, making all these, all the bits and pieces they need for the challenges. It's really worth having a look at. As I said, I saw it through Twitter, but I suspect it's probably on the Survivor Australia website. And if you're interested in what goes on behind the scenes, it's a pretty interesting video.
Well, I'll find that link and I'll put that in the show notes.
Awesome.
So in the show notes for the podcast, that'll be easy for you to find. Something else I'll put in the show notes. After you spoke last episode about that amazing race watermelon launch thing, I went and had a look at that. It was actually pretty easy to find that video.
Yeah, it's a pretty famous incident in the whole Amazing Race show.
Yeah, well, it had about 5 million views, and it was very hard to watch. That was the first time that I had seen it before, and so
she was okay after that, but that was brutal.
Yes, it was. Yeah,
absolutely.
So I'll throw that link in the show
Awesome.
notes as well.
Do that.
And I think that's all for tonight. Okay, so we'll be here next time for the next episode. Next episode will be on Monday night. And then we've got Tuesday night. So we're not sure when we'll actually put those podcasts out. Probably on Tuesday night. And that's all for us. Thanks, Craig.
Thanks, G.
We'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.